Today I'm going to teach you how to write a short program in RobotC. But first, let's take a look at our robot. So this right here is a very simple robot I threw together. This right here is a battery pack. This is the NXT. This is a high-technic DC motor controller. These two things are motors, and the four things on the edge are wheels. As you can see from the picture, the battery pack is connected to the high-technic DC motor controller right here where it says battery. The motors are also connected to the DC motor controller where it says motor 1 and motor 2, and then the motor controller is then connected to the NXT through this cable right here. So what you're going to want to do first is open up a program in RobotC and then click on the Robot tab at the top of the screen and scroll down to Motors and Sensors Setup. Then you're going to click on Tetrix Controllers and go to Custom. So basically what the screen is asking you is what the daisy chain of power on your robot is. So let's take a look at our robot. The power starts at the battery pack and then it goes to the DC motor controller where it's then given to the NXT and the two motors. So after the battery pack, the first device to get power is the high-technic motor controller, and we don't have a second device. Next, let's click on Motors. And as you can see here, our two motors have already been named, Motor D and Motor E, and those names were just picked arbitrarily. You can really name them anything you'd like, but we chose Motor D and Motor E. So let's take a look at our picture one more time. This top motor right here, we're going to call it Motor D, and we're going to call this bottom motor Motor E. Now, because on our robot the motors are running opposite each other, we're going to need to reverse one of them. Now on your actual robot, you can use trial and error to figure out which motor needs to be reversed, but for the purpose of this video, we're just going to choose to reverse motor D. And we're not using any encoders or servers or sensors, so we can just hit apply and then OK. And as you can see, everything we just did is now at the top of our screen. Next, you're going to type task main, open and close parentheses, hit enter, and then open curly braces. And basically what you just did is you started your program and then with the curly braces you opened it. Now, one thing to note is that in RobotC, after you've opened your program, every line of code ends with a semicolon. So throughout the program, I'm going to end each of my lines with a semicolon. Now, we're going to write a very simple program to make our robot go forward. And the first thing we need to do that is turn on our motors. And the way you do that is you type motor, do a square bracket, and then specify which motor. So we're going to say motor D, close the bracket, equals, and now you're going to set the power of the motor. So we're going to set it to 100% power, and we're going to end with a semicolon. And we're going to do the same thing for motor E. Okay, so now to tell the robot how long you want the motors to be on for, or how long you want it to go forward for, you put in a wait statement. So you type wait, and we're going to do it in milliseconds. And then in parentheses, you put how many milliseconds you want it to wait for. So let's say we wanted to wait for 1,000 milliseconds. Oops, 10,000. Alright, so let's say we wanted to make it go for 10,000 milliseconds. And then after we're done waiting for 10,000 milliseconds, we're going to turn off our motors. And the way you do that is you set the power of the motors to 0 instead of 100. And we're going to do the same thing for motor E. Set the power to 0. And we have to close our program with a closing curly brace. And now this program makes our robot go forward, because what we did is we turned on both of our motors, and while they were on, we waited for 10,000 milliseconds, and then we turned off our motors. So let's save and compile this program just to prove that it is written correctly, and it is. Okay, so now let's write a program to go backwards. The program is going to be exactly the same as this forward program, except instead of setting the motors to 100%, you're going to set the motors to minus 100% power, and that'll put your robot in reverse. in other words, make it go backwards. So now, this is going to get a little bit trickier. We're going to write programs to go left and right. So first, let's write a program to go left. Now, let's look at our robot really quickly. If this is the front of our robot, to make the robot turn left, we can do one of two things. We can either turn on this motor and turn this motor on in reverse, so make this wheel go backwards and this wheel go forwards, or we can turn this wheel on forwards and keep this motor off. So let's write both of those programs. So to make the robot turn left, we can turn motor D on forwards and turn motor E on in reverse, like that, and this program would make our robot turn left. Or, if we just take out motor E altogether and just turn on motor D, that could also make our robot turn left. And the same thing would obviously apply for a right turn, except instead of motor D, it would be motor E. Thanks so much for listening.